So once you can, so bats with a lot of things, turtles would be another example. If you can make it to your first birthday, you're probably going to live a long time because they don't have any other, once you get to that point, they have very few predators. I mean, there are other things that can happen to you, but generally you live a long time. So for bats, even if it was to the mortality was to stop today, the recovery rate, even under the best circumstances, is going to be probably centuries, for bats, some of these bat species to recover to levels that they occurred at prior to 2006. Yeah, I think Oklahoma, I know it's been documented in Oklahoma, probably Missouri, about as far west. I don't know any further south, maybe Alabama. Typically, it's along the Appalachian mountain ranges where there's caves and mines. There's the geology there that, where the environment exists for the things. But bats move around, and so you can only expect that it's going to continue to expand into the west. And a lot of those states like Wisconsin, Minnesota, they're bracing. They haven't documented yet, but they're bracing for it. They know it's coming at some point. And what do? How do they protect their bat species there? In the Northeast, a lot of states like New York, Pennsylvania are saying, how do we protect the bats we have left? And there's all kinds of strategies being thrown out there, from disinfecting each bat or going into the cave and pressure washing. I mean, people are desperate. They kind of come up with ideas. Down in Tennessee, they're actually they're making artificial caves, basically bunkers, that they hope the bats will use that they can disinfect. So they're trying to come up with strategies before some of these things become extinct. Hopefully they won't. With the cold, you mean the cold weather here? Bats as well as other species, they've evolved to deal with these conditions. We've got spoiled the last couple of winters. It's been abnormally mild. So this is a wake-up call that, but bats and other mammals in particular, birds, whatever, have evolved. And I'm sure there's stress factors for certain things like deer this year. It's a really hard year for deer because we did not have a huge acorn crop, a mast crop. For us here on Rhode Island, our mast is basically acorns, which is an important food item for not only deer but a lot of animals. And it varies from season to season. This year there's very little acorns. We've had a lot of snow cover, so it's hard for deer and other animals to get access to food. So they're coming into suburban areas. Probably if you walk around the building here, I'm sure you'll see evidence of deer probably browsing the shrubs here. So they're eating things that they, maybe not starvation food, but it could be getting to that at this point. Things they might not normally have to rely on. But
I can tell a story of a gentleman who found just after Christmas that deer had come and torn the wreath off his front door.
yeah.
That's how desperate they are.
Yeah, so it's what do you mean? They going at food items? I think it's just lack of. They just can't get to things they would normally rely on this time of year. Like I said, because snow cover has a lot to do with it. And they weren't able to really put on a lot of fat reserves in the fall when they normally would, because they would just gorge on acorns. And even in those winters when it's cold but there's not a lot of snow cover, as long as there's an adequate acorn crop, those acorns will persist on the ground throughout the winter, so they can get access to them. They're just not there this year. But they're very adaptable. They eat a wide range of things, so they have preferred foods that they'd rather have, but there's other things that they can survive on, get through the winter. You'd have to ask a forester that. But it's cyclical. There are various factors that affect mass production. like I said, one of their main food items, acorns, is not available. Okay. Does anybody have any other questions about bats or anything, traps, or like I said, the PowerPoint I have about regulated trapping talks about regulations and statutes and stuff regulating trapping in Rhode Island, but I also talk about various types of traps, and they fall into different categories. If you want, I can get into that otherwise. Okay, so I would classify traps in two categories. You know, live restraining traps, like your little Sherman small mammal trap or a cage trap. You know, basically you entice an animal of whatever species, and these range from this size or this size up to cage traps like the one I have on the floor there, and even bigger. So this, you know, you catch the animal in here and you restrain it until such time as you take it out, study it, whatever you intend to do. A foothold trap is a live restraining trap, okay? I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions about these are killing traps. A foothold trap is a restraining device. Whether or not, you know, the animal, you know, you use this in such a way that the animal is killed either by drowning is a typical way. In some states that is legal. These traps are not legal for use in Rhode Island. But they are used commonly in other states. We're one of the few states, actually, that does not allow their use. But they are used for capture and restraining animals for study. All the wolves that were reintroduced into Yellowstone National Park were caught in foothold traps in other states and relocated there. Otters that were reintroduced into Pennsylvania and Missouri and about 14 other states were caught using foothold traps. It's all a matter of as Paul said, you know, I think you mentioned earlier about the evolution of trapping techniques to become more humane. There are modifications that have been made to modern traps so that they don't injure the animals. I mean, if you're studying coyotes, as we have a researcher who's been doing a lot of work on Aquidneck Island studying coyotes, this is really the only effective or practical way to catch coyotes and foxes. So, and the last thing you want is to injure an animal. So the modifications to this particular trap, it has rubber padding, it has various shock springs, it has swivels, so that the animal basically is not going to injure itself. The other key thing is you have to check your traps frequently. You cannot, you know, if you use the cage trap, which everybody can go, you know, go to the hardware store and get their Have a Heart trap, or it has some other nice name. It implies that it's good for the animals, doesn't hurt. But if you leave an animal in here for 24 hours or out in the baking sun, it's not very humane. So there's a lot of personal responsibility that goes along with that, and trap check times are important. And then there's quick killing or quick killing type traps. Traps that basically are designed to kill an animal instantly. That could be something as simple as your little mouse or rat trap. Okay? It could also then be various body gripping traps, which, like this one here, would be used to catch muskrats or mink. And varying up in size to a larger version of that would be used to catch beavers. And I won't take this apart, but basically you entice an animal to pass through this opening. It triggers a spring, same way as on a mouse trap, strikes the animal behind the neck is the intended location, kills it instantly. So you could categorize traps into two categories, you know, quick killing and live restraining traps. And there's variations of all of those kind of things, but those are the two basic designs. Is there anything else that I should mention that Yeah, I put some handouts on the back there. Again, I didn't bring enough for every person, but there's probably enough for each team about trapping and fur bearer management. If you need more, I can, you know, just let Paul or I know. I mean, I will get more copies or make them available or tell you where. There's a lot of stuff available on the DEM website. We have a series of fact sheets about raccoons and coyotes. Much of those are directed towards property owners who may be interested in finding out, well, how do I resolve this problem with squirrels or woodchucks or stuff, but there's, what's that? I have a fur bearer kit, which was gifted to us by the Northeast Fur Resources Technical Committee, of which I'm the Rhode Island representative, but it has skulls, it has pelts in it. Paul, you've probably used it a number of times. It has other activities and information in there, and there's various programs. Yep, a couple minutes. So I have that available for loan. Anything else? Yes, yep. Yeah, through Paul or I, yeah. There's some activity things in there that you can run through a series of projects, but you can make up your own stuff, or if you just want to look at the pelts, the museum quality skulls, they're the real thing, and I've just brought a couple of things, but like I said, I just grabbed a bunch of stuff, things that I've used over the years to, just to collect data on stuff, collect stuff and collect data on stuff, so. Okay, yeah, we're on it. Thank you.